Hey guys, welcome to Neighbor Stories with JusRead. Today we're diving into some incredible stories about overcoming the toughest neighbor disputes. Our story is titled, I Gave My Retired Navy SEAL Neighbor $100,000 to Get Revenge on My Nightmare Homeowners Association Board. The story starts like this. When I moved into the cozy cul-de-sac of Lilac Lane last year, I thought I'd found my suburban paradise. The quaint ranch-style homes with perfect little lawns, kids playing basketball in the street, neighbors waving politely as they retrieve their mail. It all seemed so idyllic. If only I had known then what sadistic tyrants were lurking behind the scenes. It started small at first. I installed a cute little garden gnome statue in my front yard, thinking nothing of the Homeowners Association rules. The next day, I found an ominous letter taped to my front door. Lawn decor unauthorized by Homeowners Association standards. Remove immediately or face fines. Well, that seemed a bit draconian, but alright, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers as the new guy on the block. I relocated dear old Normie to my backyard instead. Crisis averted. If only I knew then that it was merely the first salvo in an unrelenting campaign of harassment by the deranged Homeowners Association board members. Their iron-fisted rule over our idyllic cul-de-sac quickly revealed itself in ways both absurd and sinister. My next run-in with the Homeowners Association overlords came on a muggy July morning. I had scheduled a contractor to come replace my ancient wheezing AC unit before I melted into a puddle. No sooner had he pulled into my driveway when a pristine black Escalade came screeching to a halt behind his van. A livid, beet red man leapt out, screaming that all exterior work required Homeowners Association pre-approval. He berated the poor contractor until the guy threw up his hands and sped off, my new AC unit still strapped to his roof rack. Fuming, I demanded to see proof of this so-called rule, which of course the tyrannical Homeowners Association board member did not have on hand. Still, lacking the funds for a legal battle, I begrudgingly submitted the required paperwork and was summarily denied. Reason cited? Style of proposed AC unit exterior not consistent with neighborhood aesthetics. For real? Southern humidity be damned, I just have to suffer through August without AC, because my perfectly normal, functional AC unit wasn't visually pleasing enough for their standards. By the fall, I had learned in fear of the Homeowners Association's draconian regulations and ambush inspections. God forbid a weed was spotted in my vegetable garden or a fence slat was out of place. But as an avid Halloween lover, I decided to take a stand with some spooky decorations come October. Mere hours after I had finished setting up glowing tombstones and fog machines on my lawn, the Escalade stalked by. The next morning, I was slapped with a $300 daily fine for unauthorized seasonal lawn displays. When I left the decor up as a protest, the fines racked up to nearly $5,000 in a week. That was merely a precursor for the Homeowners Association's crowning holiday insult. Like many on our street, I had strung up cheerful Christmas lights to spread some joy. The melodramatic angry letter left on my doorstep was borderline deranged. Multicolored Christmas lights constitute an egregious violation of approved decorative lighting schemes as per Homeowners Association Charter Section 42.18. Remove and replace with uniform plain white lights only or face severe punitive measures. I couldn't believe it. Banning my innocent holiday lights just to maintain their precious cookie-cutter aesthetic standards? This level of micromanaging psychosis had to end. As the months dragged on, each petty instance of Homeowners Association harassment compounded my fury exponentially. Power-tripping board members would cruise the neighborhood daily, hoping to catch minor infractions that warranted massive fines. They relished any opportunity to berate and intimidate residents. I wasn't the only one suffering under their iron-fisted regime. My breaking point came in early spring, when our street threw a block party. Music echoed between the houses, kids played games in the road, and residents mingled freely in a rare moment of cul-de-sac camaraderie. We didn't even make it an hour before the villainous Homeowners Association president came marching over, face purple with rage. Unauthorized gatherings strictly prohibited. Disperse immediately or authorities will be contacted. His shrill threats cast an ominous pall across the once joyous gathering. Dejected, families retreated back into their homes, freedoms crushed under the Homeowners Association's boot once again. I resolved then that the tyranny had to end here and now. These power-hungry bullies thought they could rob us of basic liberties under the shameful guise of rules. It was time for an uprising. Which brings us back to the $100,000 I paid my former Navy SEAL neighbor Greg to help take down the Homeowners Association for good. Now you might call that an extreme overreaction on my part. But after months of oppression, I was out of legal options. Greg, however, was uniquely equipped to gather the intel needed to stage an Homeowners Association coup. Ever since I knocked on his door asking for help, Greg has been on a stealthy mission of vengeance, determined to expose the corruption rotting Lilac Lane from the inside out. He trailblazed through Homeowners Association bylaws and covenants, excavating every shady loophole the board abused to line their own pockets while wielding unchecked power. While they terrorized us over things like lawn decor and holiday lights, the board hypocritically violated their own rules left and right on multi-million-dollar renovation projects, with bloated budgets and lucrative kickback deals no doubt. Greg slowly gathered other fed-up residents under his wing as mole informants, discreetly feeding him insider info on the board's misdeeds. As a 20-year Navy veteran, he knew how to coordinate an intricate web of logistics into a precision operation. By June, Greg's grassroots resistance had grown into an unstoppable force. We knew the snake's head had to be cut off, starting with the ouster of Homeowners Association President and Dictator-in-Chief Tom Patriarca. Greg had quietly collected a mountain of evidence on his self-dealing and corruption, falsified inspection reports to levy ridiculous fines on violators, blatant sweetheart deals awarding lucrative contracts to his own landscaping company, and worst of all, outright embezzlement, with Homeowners Association administrative fees funneled right into an offshore holding company he owned. It was time for the showdown. Tom may have unlimited legal and financial resources from extorting neighborhood residents, but he was no match for a highly trained force of Navy SEAL tactical brilliance. On a sunny Saturday in mid-June, the cul-de-sac block party kicking off summer was once again in full swing. After an hour of tension, like clockwork, the despot stormed up screaming about permits and unauthorized activity. Only this time, Greg and his band of merry rebels were ready. They whipped out phone cameras and began live streaming the deranged tyrant's maniacal threats. Greg calmly confronted Tom with printouts of bank statements and legal filings documenting his years of fraud and embezzlement. "It's over, Tom. Resign immediately and turn over the books, or this evidence goes directly to the county district attorney." The bully's face blanched white with fear. He sputtered half-hearted excuses, but the jig was up. Greg's moles had successfully covertly contacted every homeowner under Tom's reign of tyranny, and they were gathered right there, voices united in chanting "Resign." Resign? Tom scowled bitterly, seeing his empire crumble before his eyes. But knowing the legal implications, he had no choice but to surrender in disgrace. Justice had at last come to Lilac Lane, all thanks to a group of courageous neighbors united by Greg's bold resistance. In the months since the dramatic coup, our cul-de-sac has flourished into a model of suburban paradise no longer tainted by tyranny. Greg worked closely with the new board to completely rewrite the bylaws and restore basic neighborhood liberties. Holiday decorations for all, block parties galore, and yes, even garden gnomes without fear of fines. Lilac Lane residents have formed a vibrant, tight-knit community. It's the perfect little suburban utopia I always dreamed of finding when I first moved here. By investing in Greg's dedication to exposing injustice, I got far more than my money's worth in restored freedoms, and the courage to never again surrender liberty in the face of tyranny. Wherever oppressive regimes arise, principled resistance can triumph. Update. With the Homeowners Association Board's corrupt president ousted, one might think tranquility had returned to Lilac Lane. But sadly, the tentacles of Tom Patriarca's malice ran deeper than we ever imagined. Even with evidence of misconduct in hand, prying loose his ill-gotten financial gains to return to their rightful owners turned into a taxing legal slog. Tom adamantly refused to hand over insider bank statements and accounting records that would prove systematic fraud over the years. My neighbor Greg tried negotiating firmly but fairly at first. Yet Tom clearly still believed himself above the law, threatening frivolous lawsuits should we continue pressing the issue. Arrogant as ever, despite no longer holding power on the board. Having exhausted reasonable channels, it was time for more drastic action. On my request, Greg spearheaded intensive background research into Tom's family, business dealings, and associates. If he wanted to play hardball, we'd dig up leverage and force his hand. The exhaustive investigation exposed how deep the rabbit hole really went. Talk about skeletons in this guy's closet, tax evasion, insurance fraud relating to his landscaping company, employment of undocumented immigrants, and even rumored ties to the mafia. Greg masterfully orchestrated a clever sting operation, subtly leaking tidbits of that damaging information, while giving Tom a friendly chance to set things right with the Homeowners Association. The suggestion was clear: hand over the books without a legal fight, or the full dossier goes public. Checkmate? Once presented with a smorgasbord of career-ending dirty laundry we'd uncovered, Tom's defiant facade crumbled. His lawyering up and scorched earth threats morphed into desperate pleas for mercy. Hard to play legal hardball from prison after all. It took several tersely negotiated back-and-forth meetings hammering out every last detail. But finally, Tom fully relinquished control of all Homeowners Association accounts, passwords, and financial records. Progress? Yet making sense of a labyrinth of convoluted bookkeeping chicanery would be a mammoth task. Thankfully, Greg's status as a respected veteran enabled him to recruit a skilled forensic accountant friend, who volunteered to unravel Tom's financial shell game for free. And when the dust settled, Homeowners Association. Turns out Tom had swindled our community out of nearly $500,000 in embezzled Homeowners Association fees over the years. But his mistakes letting greed outpace his street smarts finally caught up via diligent investigation. With concrete proof of such large-scale fraud in hand, we had Tom dead to rights. Greg shrewdly handled the delicate next phase, compelling Tom to repay every last cent of the massive sum creatively borrowed or face very public prosecution. Tom did his best to stall and stonewall, probably still holding out hope we'd give up, but Greg and I made it abundantly clear such games would only make the consequences for him far, far worse. Finally recognizing the precariousness of his position, Tom caved. Over the next few weeks, 7-figure deposits flowed back into the newly freed Homeowners Association accounts one by one. Part of me wondered if, rather than learning humility, Tom was simply bitter about losing his power trip. But either way, justice had finally been served. With restitution complete and new bylaws in place, the wounds from his dictatorial reign over Lilac Lane could truly start healing. Forensic analysis confirmed not a penny still remained owing, so no further contact with our disgraced ex-president was needed. The ordeal took immense time and diligence, but ultimately Greg's principled stand yielded an accounting victory for truth. With the Homeowners Association's finances rightfully restored, Greg spearheaded drafting an entirely revised governance charter designed to permanently prevent such centralized corruption. Checks and balances, term limits, transparent budgets. The new guidelines transformed our Homeowners Association into a beacon of openness. Our street has since flourished under the guidance of a kind, principled board inviting robust homeowner participation. The atmosphere nowadays is one of camaraderie and cooperation, not coercion and petty dictates. Lilac Lane has become an idyllic suburban oasis where folks truly watch out for one another. After taste testing dozens of secret family barbecue rib recipes, I think my smoked chipotle bourbon ribs easily took top honors at our 4th of July block party last summer. My trust in investing $100,000 in Greg to facilitate downfall of the corrupt regime could not have yielded a greater reward. Whenever I look out my window now and see kids playing freely in the vibrant cul-de-sac, neighbors relaxing on front porches, flags and lawn decor on proud display, it's priceless. Tom Patriarcha badly underestimated the resolve of principled people when provoked. Like countless oppressive rulers before him, that arrogance became his downfall. This entire experience has affirmed my faith that, when decent folks bravely band together, justice ultimately prevails. Of course, the world still has no shortage of villains who will test the mettle of courageous communities. But on the microcosmic scale of a neighborhood cul-de-sac, we prove that everyday citizens have power to conquer corruption through resilience and moral courage. And that's an inspiring American ideal worth protecting. And guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed this epic neighbor showdown, please smash that like button. Comment with some house emojis to show your support, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks a lot, and I will see you again tomorrow with another amazing story.